Who doesn't love a good extreme makeover? Well, stay tuned because this is one of them. Look at this finish. And can you believe this was just refinished by someone? Not me. A client came to me and was buying another dresser, and she saw this one. She liked the style, but wanted to have it refinished to match the dresser that she got from me. And I had this, it got delivered to me, and this was the condition that it was in. Again, just refinished, so the other refinisher dropped it off. You can see there the swirl marks. How about that? So it looked like, well, from afar, I guess, stain, but it was actually just a really thick stain over primer. So the first thing to do is just, what am I working with here? So I sanded off a corner. Now the stain and primer that had recently just been put on there was over the top of a manufacturer paint. So it had not been, it wasn't like a natural wood piece. So what I wanted to do is, my client wants the top stain to match the other piece that I'm selling. So I've got to get this down to bare wood and see what I'm working with here. Oh, I love it when it comes off like that. It's great. Well, yes, I could have used stripper, and I know I'm going to get a lot of comments about that. I don't particularly like stripper because in an hour of scraping and getting my workout in, I can have this done, and I don't have to wait for everything to dry. And then with an 80 grit, because this is solid wood, I'm down to this far. So the carbide scraper was everything, and I can use it here on the front as well because this is a flat area on the trim. And then I have another detail carbide scraper that can get in those little edges. I then move to my little sanding blocks to sand that down smooth. And that's where we were, and there it is, getting all nice and clean. Okay, time to move through some grits. So again, I stripped this with 80 to 120 and then to 220 to get everything sanded smooth. And it is looking fabulous. Time to move on to the dresser. So remove all this old hardware, and I've got to clean this up. There's no way that I can let this go like this. So I spent some time getting the inside cleaned back up again. And then I've got to start sanding down all of those super heavy, thick brush marks because I can't paint over that. It's all going to show up. So most of my time is going to be spent sanding and sanding some more. And I put my interface pad on and sanded the edges and the grooves, and then start sanding here. And not only am I working with huge, huge spirals from their sander. Look, I think these are the worst swirl marks I've ever seen. But I'm also working through all the layers of paint and all of that. So I had to do every side of the drawer. I'm filling in the hardware holes because we're changing that as well. And just Bondo, I didn't have to do a lot of repairs because I was able to sand out those big gouges on the top and then just sanding down all my Bondo here. But you can see I pretty much had to strip these drawers down to the manufacturer finish. So this edge came this way. It had lost its detail. It's all smoothed out. So I needed to put that back. And I don't have a router that has that same bit, so I'm going to do it like this. Just using my Dremel tool to make a straight line. And then again, those little contour sanding blocks with a net on it just to really get in there and make this detail. And I think it came out pretty good. All right, time to move on. Now, this is paint wash. Again, this is just some leftover tan paint that I had, which is pretty much how I do every tan wash. Tan paint, and I'm just kind of canceling out some of those red and orange tones that were in there because this is not stain grade, typical wood. It doesn't have beautiful grain. You can see there's different panels that have been laminated together. So I've got to kind of cancel some of those variances out. So while that's drying, time to drill some new hardware holes, just getting everything measured, setting up my hardware jig. I have like 4 or 5 different sizes of drawers. And my client purchased some hardware that's getting shipped to me, but I want to drill the holes now before I start painting. And I was just setting out the holes and making sure I had my spacing right. Okay, these adjustable screws I never use as adjustable screws, but they're great temporary handles. These drawers are solid and heavy, so none of that jiggling the dresser to get the drawers to come out or sticking a screwdriver in the hole to get the drawers to come out. They're heavy. So I need these temporary handles. All of my drawers are numbered, so I know where they go. And look at that. We are getting close. Time to get in for a really light sanding on my paint wash. And I'm gonna stain everything with a color called Whole Wheat from Salmon Stain. I'm just using this edger. It's a great way to apply stain. So Whole Wheat is a color that's sort of a grayish brown. And because we're matching the other dresser, this is the stain that was on the other dresser. So it's a brown with gray undertones. I put stain on everything and then take a really smooth, soft microfiber towel and take the stain back. So considering where I were, I've come a long way. It's sprinkling outside and I want to get this project done, so I set up my spray tent in the garage, which is so cramped, but we make it work. And now I need to tape off my beautifully stained top so that I don't get any paint and primer on it. I put tape around the perimeter and then I use this is like saran wrap. This is my Costco saran wrap, and I fill in the middle with it, tape everything together and fold over the edges, and it works perfectly. Time for some primer. This is the transformation because now I get to cover up all of the craziness down below. And I love this part because even though it looks so crazy, it's all incredibly smooth. And that first coat of primer really lets all of that shine through. But it also is going to allow me to see any imperfections if I still have any places that I need to sand, or if I didn't get all those swirl marks out, because my goodness, I've had to sand and sand and sand some more. But we're looking pretty good. First coat of primer and more sanding. But now this is just a light sanding because I'm just trying to make everything as smooth as possible. So I just go over the entire dresser with this sanding sponge, and this is probably a 400 grit at least by now. I did a second coat of primer just because this poor dresser's been through so much. It's evening and I'm in my garage, and yes, it's kind of dark, but I can see. Here goes the white. This is a beautiful creamy Swiss coffee. And again, guess what I do in between coats? Sand. Second coat of paint. I'm going slow. White is one of those that requires a little more paint, so I go slower. I have my paint turned down, so I'm not putting a ton on there, but I want to make sure I get really good coverage. In between coats, I pull those drawers out and I'm just painting the tops. I have a little poly brush and I go in with my same paint color. All right, first coat of top coat. And this is looking fabulous. So excited. So sanding in between top coats. There's another layer of top coat I didn't film, but wow, look at that. Time to get rid of that. Okay, the big reveal. Wasn't that amazing? I know it went fast. You'll see it again, I promise. Now I'm just getting ready to do some drawer liners, and I measure everything because I want them. I don't like to put them in and then trim them. I trim them first and then put them in the drawer. So I measure everything, get it cut to size. I do a quick dry fit, peel the paper off, place it in the drawers. I'm gonna smooth it out with my hands. And then I take a plastic putty knife and really get it seated down on the edges. I had 9 drawers to do. This one was particularly complex. And hey, while we're at it, I might as well add my logo to this one because I earned it. This was a lot of work and I think it deserved a logo. Okay, the hardware has arrived. Here it is. Vintage Hepplewhite. It's got a 1 3/4 inch spread, and those holes have to be recessed just in the front. So I took a big drill bit and just did the front. There they are. Take a look back at where we started, and here's where we are. Can you even believe this is the same dresser? I mean, I kind of want to keep going back and forth to look at what it was to what it is now. But it went through an incredible transformation. I know she's going to be so excited when she gets this. I hope you like it, and be sure to follow for more.